Mojobreak's countdown of the top 10 baseball players in the hobby continues with our number 6 player, which takes us to the Windy City to talk about maybe the most hyped baseball player in the trading card world over the last year. Hey everybody, Cody back with you for our number 6 player as Mojobreak is counting down the top 10 baseball players to watch, both on the field and in the hobby for the 2021 season. The next player on our countdown is maybe the number 1 player in the eyes of a lot of folks in the hobby, but for our list, he sits at number 6. It is Chicago White Sox center fielder Luis Robert. The next time you're at a social gathering, whether that be next month or in the next 10 years, if somebody says the phrase to you, "Things really stacked up in my favor in 2020, you should immediately distrust that person and cut off all forms of communication. That is, of course, unless that person was smart enough to hold on to a first Bowman Luis Robert card. If you're watching this video, I probably don't need to tell you this, but in the last year plus, the trading card world has reached heights the likes which have never been seen. And because of that, certain young stars have reaped the benefits in the trading card world. Guys like Justin Herbert in football, John Morant and Zion Williamson in basketball, and for baseball fans, Luis Robert has been that guy. Before we delve into Robert's on-the-field output in his rookie season, let's trace our steps back a little bit to figure out why his cards have become such a hot item so quickly. For one, and this is the most obvious reason, Robert has incredible potential. We're talking once-in-a-generation potential here. There's some scouts who even went so far to compare him to Mike Trout when he first signed with the White Sox back in 2017. Now, comparing any player to the likes of Mike Trout is always asking for trouble. But when that player is playing in Cuba's top professional league at the same age that most of us are worried about who we're taking out to our first homecoming dance, and hitting 400 in the same league at just 18 years old, you can see why scouts were so impressed. The hype has been following him since the day he signed in Chicago. Hell, his most valuable card is literally a picture of him at his introductory press conference. If that's not fever pitch hype, I don't know what is. And once he started playing professional baseball in America, he didn't slow down. He was so good in 2019 that he bolted through 3 levels of the minor leagues, convincing the White Sox to buy out his arbitration years prior to the 2020 season and calling him up immediately. That leads us to reason number 2, the White Sox themselves. Yes, this team has played second banana to the Cubs for many, many years, but I don't know if you heard of this, but they actually won a World Series despite what major sports media will tell you. And for maybe the first time in franchise history, it's the White Sox that are the bigger story in the Windy City. And when Robert joined forces with former top prospects Eloy Jimenez and Yoan Moncada last season, it felt like he was the final piece of the puzzle to complete the team's rebuild. And from the looks of it, the rebuild's complete. The team goes to the postseason for the first time in 12 years, and they look poised to compete in the American League Central for many years to come. The only problem is that Luis Robert didn't really contribute as much as many fans thought he would, at least not in the batter's box. The overall numbers for Robert at the plate are not pretty, but it's his final month of the season that really stands out in the worst way possible. In the final 23 games of the year, Robert hit just 1 home run and had a measly 173 slugging percentage in his final 81 bats of the regular season. And call it the rookie year jitters, but Robert was in the bottom 6% of the league in strikeout rate, 5th worst in swings on pitches out of the strike zone, and no qualified batter swung and missed at more pitches out of the strike zone. And yet, despite an objectively abysmal end to his season, despite losing the American League Rookie of the Year award to Seattle Mariners standout Kyle Lewis, Roberts' standing in the trading card community remains mostly unchanged. Pulling one of his most valuable cards still feels like a momentous occasion. So why is it? Are collectors just simply digging in their heels and demanding top dollar for his cards, his .233 average be damned? Was the timing of his major league debut and the explosion of interest in the hobby just the perfect storm? Or did collectors realize that judging a 23-year-old solely on his output in a 60-game shortened season is not really fair? There's probably some truth to all that, but let's focus in on that last point because, as I've said in previous videos in the series, judging any player solely based off of their 2020 season is punishable by law, or at least it should be. As mentioned, Robert had an awful end to the season as Major League pitching seemed to figure him out, but before that, he was proving why he was one of the most highly touted prospects in White Sox history. He had a 960 OPS through his first 33 games, and he was on a 50 home run pace over a 162-game season. And even with that terrible, horrible, no good, very bad month, Robert was still at or near the top of the offensive leaderboards among rookies, leading all first-year players in stolen bases and tied for the lead in home runs. But the one place where Robert is already among the best in baseball is his defense. He took home what may end up being the first of many Gold Glove awards this season, and the defensive metrics show exactly why. He was tied for first in estimated runs prevented, and based on your fielding stat of choice, he ranked as the second best or best defensive player in Major League Baseball back in 2020. Even if you're not a big believer in defensive metrics, making the leap from playing single A ball at the beginning of 2019 to being, by some accounts, the best defensive player in baseball by the end of 2020 is an incredible feat. Look, as much as I love a good web gem and as great as Robert was in the field last season, I'm not entirely convinced that's the reason why he remains so hot in the hobby. Probably the easiest explanation is that for many fans, their final impression of Luis Robert was watching him hit the piss out of this ball against the Oakland A's in the postseason, putting baseball on notice for what he might be in the years to come. But now I feel like I'm contradicting myself. Should you not buy into his 60-game performance, but get excited about one at-bat because baseball go boom? Is Luis Robert the guy who took baseball by storm in the first half of the season? Or is he the guy that swung at every pitch in the Chicagoland area? The answer is... okay, that's not a satisfying answer at all. I get it. So let's just put it like this. Is Luis Robert the next Mike Trout? Probably not. But who the hell is? If you happen to pull a valuable Luis Robert card and are still holding on to it, will it pay off? I absolutely think so. I won't go so far to call it a certainty, but I'm leaning towards this kid being the real deal. Even I had my doubts as I was putting this video together, thinking I was going to expose collectors for overhyping this guy and sinking their money into cards that won't actually hold any long-term value. But after watching more videos of him and diving deeper into the stats, I'm actually more convinced that 2020 was more of an aberration rather than a sign of things to come, at least in regards to his struggles at the plate. He's already an elite level defender and base runner. He's got incredible power potential, and he's in the middle of a fantastic situation with the White Sox. In a lineup of MVPs, all-stars, and former top prospects, there's not as much pressure for him to make an immediate impact in the middle of the lineup, and he can kind of learn things as he goes along. Robert's breakout campaign may not arrive in 2021, and he may not be the next Willie Mays, and that's okay. There are plenty of reasons to be excited about this 23-year-old's future in the game of baseball. That'll wrap it up for today. In our next video, we kick off our top 5 players with a guy who is maybe the most exciting player in all of baseball right now and is redefining what a superstar should look and act like, whether Major League Baseball likes it or not. As always, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Mojobreak Media for more content all throughout the baseball season and beyond.